Hi guys, I'm reading the Good Old Days books that my aunt brought out to me, and I love reading these. They've got stories of the old days in them, the good old days. See, this one's a cookie jar memories. Well, this one ain't a cookie jar memory that I'm going to read today, but I thought you guys would enjoy it. I read it last night and I really enjoyed it. It's called Patsy'S Dollar, and here's a picture of Patsy is the tallest girl, and here's her mother and her brothers and sisters. She's the tallest girl there beside her mother in a dark dress. And here's a picture of Patsy. When Bob, at the age of when this happened. Okay, it's called Patsy'S Dollar, which was a lot of money back in those days. It made her feel like a princess. It's by Bob Weiss, as told by Pat Weiss. It's W-E-I-S-S, however you pronounce that name. I'll put it in the description. Okay? It was just after my 6th birthday in 1942. I was on my way home from school one afternoon when I happened upon a dollar. It was barely visible under a bunch of leaves. I didn't recognize it as being real money until I picked it up. It had been folded several times, leading me to believe the original owner had it tucked in hers or his pocket, but not deeply enough because it must have fallen out. I looked around to see if there was anyone nearby who might have lost it, but the street was empty. I refolded the money and put it into my pocket, but I stuffed it down really, really deep. I hurried home to tell my parents what I had found. Approaching home, I hoped that Daddy would be sitting in his rocking chair on the front porch. I didn't get to see him a lot of times because he worked nights, but sometimes he would be up when I got home from school. Then he would sit in his chair rocking back and forth and wait for each of his children to get home. Even though I was one of 11 children, my parents shared their time with each of us. "Daddy, Daddy, look what I found," I yelled when I saw him sitting in the rocker. I ran up, gave him a hug and a big kiss, and excitedly showed him the folded dollar. He took it from me, unfolded it, and brushed off some of the dirt. "Patsy, you are a very lucky little girl. I'll put it away for you in a very safe place." He didn't say where he would put the dollar, but I knew that a dollar was a lot of money. We lived in the poorer section of Memphis, Tennessee, but we were a happy family, and I really didn't know what poor meant. My mommy said many times, "Patsy, we're not wealthy, but we are rich in love that we have for each other." The next day after school, Mommy asked me and my younger sister Ruthie to go to the grocery store. It was just an old shabby store on the corner of Oakwood Street in the poor neighborhood just a couple of blocks from our home. My mommy wasn't feeling well that day, so my younger sister and I helped by doing the shopping for her. "Here's some money to buy milk, macaroni, bread for tonight's supper," she said to me as she handed me a dollar. In those days, a dollar bought a lot of food. I looked at the dollar she had given me and noticed that it had been folded many times until it was very, very small, enough to fit into someone's pocket if one wasn't careful, and to be luckily found by someone coming home from school. I looked up at Mommy, but I didn't say anything. "Now, Patsy, you and Ruthie be careful crossing the street," Mommy said. "Make sure you hold hands, and honey, don't lose that dollar. It has to last until your father gets paid." After tucking the dollar deep into my pocket, my sister and I took off for the store. At first, I was disappointed that Daddy had given Mommy my dollar. Then I thought that maybe Daddy had to put it away somewhere and Mommy had just found it, not realizing it was mine. I was confused. There were times when my sister and I were very hungry. Sometimes on the way home from buying bread at the grocery store, we would open each end of the loaf and remove the slice next to the heel and eat it before we got home. We did it that day. We didn't do it that day because we knew we were having lots of food, macaroni and cheese. There was other times when we had no food, and Mommy would tell us to sing our favorite church songs. She told us that singing the Lord's hymns would help us forget about being hungry. I learned a lot of songs while growing up. Later that evening, Mommy called us to that dinner. It was ready. It looked good, macaroni and cheese and a surprise for dessert, rice pudding. The dinner's cheese was from Aunt Renee and Uncle Cecil, who lived on a farm outside of Memphis with their 12 children. I had lots of cousins. As our family was about to sit down for dinner, one of my older sisters, on seeing the food, thanked our mother for the wonderful dinner before us. All of my brothers and sisters chimed in as well. That's when Daddy interrupted us. "My children," he said. Then he looked at me and continued, "You can thank your sister Patsy for tonight's dinner. It was she who found the money that enabled your mother to cook this fine food for us. Let us all hold hands and give thanks to the Lord for what we have before us." I realized then that my daddy had been too embarrassed to tell me that the money I had found was needed for food. He had told me many times before that I was one of his princesses, but that night I really felt like one. And that was Patsy's story. Don't you wish families were still like that today? Being so thankful just for the little things, just for having the littlest food, macaroni and cheese, and holding hands to pray, thanking God for it. Even though they have very little, they thank God for it like it's a feast. If only families were like that today. This world is becoming such a cruel, cruel place. A lot of people, most people these days, don't even tell their children about God. And if they mention Him, they just tell them that God does not exist. And it truly breaks my heart. They don't realize they're sending their child on a path to hell. That's not love. So I hope you guys enjoyed Patsy's story from the good old days. And if I find any more good stories, which I'm sure I will in my 3 magazines of the good old days, I will make another video for you guys. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's story, Patsy'S Dollar. And I hope it touched your guys' hearts. Bye, guys. God bless.